When Sarah Martinez called the police that morning, her voice was filled with fear and confusion. "Please come immediately," she had said, "to Lincoln Elementary. The child I've been seeing in my classroom for 5 years. He's not real." The police officer on the phone initially thought it was a joke, but what Sarah had discovered would shake not just a school, but an entire community. Sarah Martinez, 52 years old, was an experienced educator working as a third-grade teacher at Lincoln Elementary School. Born and raised in the small town of Riverside, Colorado, she had been teaching at the same school for 28 years. A married mother of 2 grown children, Sarah was like a second mother to her students. On this cold October morning, she had arrived early at school as usual. When she opened her classroom door at 7:45 a.m., her desk awaited with that day's lesson plans, student homework, and weekly reports. She had 28 students this year. She knew most of them from previous years because Riverside was a small town and families usually preferred the same school. But there was one special student who caught Sarah's attention. She had been seeing this child for exactly 5 years. She had first noticed him in 2018. At that time, she was teaching first grade, and the child sat in the back corner of the classroom, near the window. He appeared to be about 7 to 8 years old, with brown hair, blue eyes, and was a quiet child. He never spoke, just watched outside. Sarah remembered that she couldn't find the child's name on the teacher's list at that time. She had asked the assistant principal, Mrs. Thompson, "Who is the brown-haired child in the back row?" "I can't see his name on the list." Mrs. Thompson was surprised. "Which child, Sarah?" "All students should be on the list." When Sarah wanted to point out the child, he wasn't there at that moment, as if he had never existed. In 2019, Sarah had become a second-grade teacher. On the first day when she entered the classroom, she was shocked. The same child was sitting in the back row again. He appeared the same age, with the same silence, but this time she was more careful. She would definitely learn the child's name. That year, Sarah began observing the child more systematically. She noticed these details. The child would arrive every morning at 8:15 and leave at 3:30. He never ate lunch or went outside during recess. He never talked to other children, and they seemed not to see him. No family ever came to parent-teacher conferences. His name appeared nowhere in school records. The strangest part was that other teachers seemed to act as if they didn't see this child. When Sarah said, "The child in the back row," they all seemed surprised. In 2020, when they switched to online learning due to COVID, Sarah never saw the child. But when they returned to in-person learning in 2021, the child was there again. This time Sarah was teaching 4th grade, but the child still appeared the same age. In 2022, Sarah really began to worry. The child had been in front of her for 4 years now, but he never aged. He appeared the same height, the same age. How could this be possible? Sarah discussed the situation with her husband, Michael. "Michael, something very strange is happening. There's a child at school. I've been seeing him for 4 years, but he never grows up." Michael thought Sarah was imagining things from fatigue. "Maybe they're different children, honey. Children this age can look similar to each other." But Sarah was certain. The child had a small scar above his left eyebrow. She remembered this, and that scar was always in the same place. That year, Sarah decided to do more aggressive research. She examined school archives, reviewed all student records from the last 10 years. She couldn't find any record belonging to this child anywhere. In 2023, Sarah was researching the child with what had become an obsessive curiosity. This time she tried a different approach. She decided to take a photo of the child. But whenever she took out her phone, the child would change his position as if he understood, or wouldn't appear at all. Sarah shared this situation with her colleague and closest friend, Jennifer Williams. "Jennifer, I'm going to tell you something very strange, but please don't think I'm crazy." Jennifer smiled. "Tell me, Sarah, what's so strange?" Sarah told the whole story. Jennifer first took a joking attitude, but when she saw Sarah's seriousness, she became concerned. "Sarah, maybe you should talk to a psychologist or doctor. Stress sometimes causes—" "No, Jennifer." Sarah's voice hardened. "I'm not crazy. That child is real, and something is very wrong." That week, Sarah tried a different experiment. While taking attendance in class, she looked at the child and asked, "What's your name?" The child looked at her. For the first time, they made eye contact. The child's eyes were very old, like adult eyes, and he looked very sad. The child moved his lips, but no sound came out. Sarah said, "I can't hear you. Please say it louder." This time the child opened his mouth, but no sound came out, as if he was mute. At that moment, the other children in the class looked at Sarah strangely. One student asked, "Mrs. Martinez, who are you talking to?" Sarah turned around and pointed at the child, but the child wasn't there. That night, Sarah did very deep research at home. She began researching the history of Lincoln Elementary School, the history of the area, events that had happened in the past. While searching Riverside, Colorado missing children on the internet, she found a striking news article. 8-year-old Timothy Brooks disappeared in 2003. When she opened the article, her breath was taken away. The child in the photo looked very much like the child she had been seeing in her classroom for 5 years. The same brown hair, the same blue eyes, even the same scar above the left eyebrow. She read the details of the article. Timothy Brooks, 8 years old, had disappeared on October 15th, 2003, after leaving Lincoln Elementary School. The child had left school that afternoon, but never made it home. Comprehensive search efforts were made, but no trace was found. The case remains open. Sarah's heart was pounding. 2003, 20 years ago. But that child still appeared the same age. In the early morning hours, Sarah conducted more detailed research. She wanted to learn everything about the Timothy Brooks case. The information she found was shocking. Timothy Brooks had disappeared after leaving school on October 15th, 2003. He was last seen in Lincoln Elementary's yard. His family, David and Carol Brooks, had left town after their child's disappearance. The case was never solved. Timothy's body was never found. The most horrifying detail was this. The day Timothy disappeared was exactly the 15th anniversary of the day Sarah first saw that child. While Sarah was trying to process this information, her phone rang. It was Lincoln Elementary Principal, Mr. Peterson, calling. "Sarah, can you come to school today? I need to discuss something important with you." When Sarah went to school, former principal Mrs. Grandfield was also in Mr. Peterson's office. 75-year-old Mrs. Grandfield had been the school principal in 2003. "Sarah," said Mr. Peterson, "we talked with Mrs. Grandfield. We're hearing very strange things from you. You say you see an unregistered child in your classroom." Sarah hesitated, then gathered her courage. "Yes, I've been seeing him for 5 years. And this morning I realized this child looks very much like Timothy Brooks." Mrs. Grandfield's face changed. "How do you know Timothy Brooks?" "I researched on the internet. He had disappeared in 2003. Mrs. Grandfield took a deep breath. "Sarah, the Timothy Brooks case is the greatest tragedy of this school. That child disappeared in the schoolyard. None of us can forget that day." "But that child is still here," said Sarah. "I see him every day." Mrs. Granfield and Mr. Peterson exchanged glances. "Sarah," said Mrs. Granfield slowly, "I managed this school for 40 years, and I can tell you this: Timothy Brooks is still here." Sarah was confused. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Granfield stood up and walked toward the window. "Timothy Brooks didn't disappear in 2003, Sarah. He never left this school. I don't understand. Timothy had a terrible accident while playing in the schoolyard that day. He had fallen into a deep hole that had been dug for old garden renovation. The hole was very deep, and no one heard his voice. When we found him, it was too late." Sarah's breath was taken away. "So, Timothy died that day, Sarah, but we never found his body because the hole had collapsed. His family couldn't handle this truth. We told them their child had disappeared. That's how it was recorded officially. He's been buried here for 20 years. Mrs. Granfield nodded. The schoolyard was reorganized. The top was covered. No one knows. Sarah was trembling. "But I see him. He's real." "I know, Sarah. You're not the only one." Mrs. Granfield continued telling Sarah, "In 20 years, 12 teachers have said they saw Timothy. They all told the same things. He sits in the back row, doesn't talk, isn't in the records. Why didn't anyone do anything? Because they couldn't prove it, and because we were afraid. If this truth comes out, our school will close. Our community will be ruined." Sarah got angry. "So you've been maintaining this lie for 20 years? "Sarah, Timothy's spirit is restless. He's still here because the truth isn't known." Mr. Peterson intervened. "Sarah, our request from you is this. Don't tell anyone about this. Please." When Sarah went home that day, her mind was in turmoil. She had been seeing a child who died 20 years ago, and the school administration knew about this. When she got home, she told everything to her husband, Michael. "This is horrible, Michael. That child's family doesn't know where he is for 20 years. Michael was also shocked. "Sarah, this is very serious. We should go to the police." "But I have no proof. Only I see Timothy." "You said other teachers saw him too." "Yes, but they're not talking." Sarah couldn't sleep at all that night. When she went to school in the morning, she saw Timothy again. This time the child was looking at her, and his eyes were very sad. Sarah slowly approached the child. "Timothy?" she whispered. The child nodded. "You're Timothy Brooks, aren't you?" The child nodded again. "Your family is looking for you." This time Timothy's eyes filled with tears. He opened his mouth and spoke in a very weak voice. "Mom, Dad." At that moment, Sarah made her decision. This wrong had to end. Timothy's family deserved the truth. During recess, she called the police. "I'm calling 911 because a 20-year lie must end." "Sir, can you explain the situation?" "I want to find the body of Timothy Brooks buried at Lincoln Elementary School. His family has thought he's been missing for 20 years. "Sir, this is a very serious accusation. Are you sure?" "I'm absolutely sure." 2 hours later, the school was surrounded by police vehicles. Detective Michael Carter discussed the situation with Sarah. "Mrs. Martinez, I remember the Timothy Brooks case. I was a young officer then. We had done a very comprehensive search." Sarah told the whole story. How she saw Timothy, Mrs. Granfield's explanations, the school's 20-year lie. Detective Carter said with a serious expression, "These accusations are very serious. If true, this is cover-up and concealment of forensic evidence." Police examined the old plans of the schoolyard. They identified repairs made after 2003. They scanned underground using ground-penetrating radar. 2 days later, an anomaly was detected in the backyard, under the flower garden. Excavation work began. Sarah saw Timothy for the last time that day. The child was looking at the excavation area and smiling. It was the first time she'd seen him smile. Timothy looked at her, and his lips moved. "Thank you." Then he disappeared. Sarah never saw him again. On the third day of excavation, Timothy Brooks's remains were found. Bones belonging to an 8-year-old child, and the school uniform on him. Forensic examination confirmed this. Timothy Brooks died in the hole he fell into in 2003. Mrs. Grandfield and the former school administration were taken into custody. The most horrifying detail was this. When Timothy's family was contacted that day, his mother, Carol Brooks, had a heart attack. The heart of the woman who had been searching for her son for 20 years stopped. Timothy's father, David Brooks, rushed to the hospital. Carol Brooks was being fought to be saved. David spoke with Sarah. "Mrs. Martinez, you brought out the truth. We've been wondering where our son was for 20 years. I'm so sorry, Mr. Brooks. I wish I had earlier." "No," said David. "You were brave. Timothy will finally find peace." Carol Brooks recovered after staying in the hospital for 3 days. Her family was finally able to give their son a proper funeral. Timothy Brooks's funeral was the most crowded funeral the town of Riverside had ever seen. The whole town came. Sarah was there too. At the end of the funeral, she approached the grave. "Timothy, now rest in peace with your family." She never saw Timothy again after that day. A comprehensive investigation was conducted at Lincoln Elementary School. Mrs. Grandfield and 3 administrators from that period were removed from duty. Legal proceedings were initiated. Sarah received psychological support for 1 year after the incident. The trauma she experienced was very great. A year later, Sarah began teaching in the same classroom again. Now there are no Timothy in the back corner. There are flowers in his place. Above her door hangs this sign: "In memory of Timothy Brooks, no child should be forgotten." Every morning, Sarah looks at that sign and makes a promise to herself. She will not ignore any of her students. She will not forget any of them. Sometimes the most ordinary moments reveal the greatest truths. Sarah Martinez was just a teacher. But thanks to her courage, a spirit that had been waiting for 20 years found peace, and a family was finally able to say goodbye to their son.